and municipality, we've been able to save 150 million rands that could have been part of the abalone poaching. And that is through this deployment. Well, promised us, I was sitting in front, Deputy Chairperson, when Honorable President will find people stealing public money. Let us fight it. But what we need, Honorable Maswale, please take some.
In calling you to order. Please, Bambe. Spambe. Even if u chesega, itshware fela. But
that not a single African who have sold saying that the so-called foreigners are a burden on the health system and are taking up resources meant for South Africans. The minister must bring an end to poverty, unemployment, inequality, and underdevelopment in South Africa and the continent at large. Now, because I still have some time,
you have a minute.
Chairperson, let me address this revolutionary mandate.
This city is an aerotropolis. Subsequent quarters, which followed growth, were lower accordingly. Hence, a contraction in introduction of disruptive technology. The world has already become possibilities of disrupting current economic and social structures profoundly over the next 20 years. The task for South Africa is to plan effectively. Today, those that were against these initiatives have been convinced of the long-term benefits and can't wait for the opening of the next school. Congratulations to you, MEC, for seizing the moment that was presented to you then. In 2017,
our efforts to attract investment into our province shows that Limpopo experienced an increase in the number of jobs created with 41,000 new jobs. And this increase is the highest in the country in terms of province-to-province comparison, including your Western Cape. Madam Chairperson, let me come to this issue where people are expecting us to credit them on the low-hanging fruits of good governance. Talk about Mokgopong Modimolle. Talk about Tabazimbi that you have been governing with the EFO for the past two years. Tell us about those municipalities. Up till today, they are the only two municipalities in the province which did not submit.
On a point of order.
Which did not submit financials to the Auditor General.
Honorable Premier, take your seat, please. Yes, ma'am, what is your point of order?
Chair.
No. Order. Honorable Mukweli, you looking at me, talk.
Chair, Premier is misleading the country because Tabazimbi municipality was under section 139 1B of the Constitution for the past 3 years. It was unable to service the community.
Honorable
That is why the people
going to debate
voted
from the floor.
them out.
Honorable
He must be.
Please take your seat. You are not going to debate with the member on the podium from the floor. That's not a point of order. Premier, please continue.
Thank you.
You were failing and you know that you were failing.
Please put off your mic.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Despite that, still that is not justification enough to say that for the past 2 years you could not ratify that situation. But as I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, let me come back to the issue that was raised by the Mastalisanes, the cockroaches, because they came up here with a metaphor of the cockroaches.
Honorable Premier, Don't follow bad examples.
Realization of the commanding heights of the economy.
On a point of order.
She's telling
Chairperson.
us, sorry.
Chairperson.
She's telling us
On a-
about establishing.
Proceed. What's your point of order?
Honorable Koni, who is myself, spoke about nationalization.
What is your point of
Honorable
order?
Koni is not a he. But Honorable Koni is a she. Number 2, this guy is a president of Maskhalisane. Number 4, he must not refer to us as cockroaches.
Thank you,
Because
ma'am.
He is president of Maskhalisane. Thank you.
Thank you. Please take your seat. Oh. There were 19 seconds left. Honorable Premier. Honorable Premier, the member says the point of order is that you must refer to the member as a she.
Thank you very much. I take the criticism, Honorable Chairperson.
That is out of order, Honorable Premier. Please
You must
continue with your speech.
withdraw. You must withdraw.
I withdraw.
You must, yes.
Thank you very much.
Good.
You know, Amilcar Cabral said, tell no lies and claim no easy victories. And as a result, I want to say to them also that tell no lies, claim no easy victories, because liapalelwa. You know,
Honorable Premier, I think your time is up. Thank you very much.
2009, you were given a chance to govern Limpopo. You collapsed.
Thank you, Honorable Premier.
Hey! Matabata, sit down.
The Honorable Khaila. Order. No, hold. Table staff. Honorable Khaila, please start.
Honorable Chairperson, His Excellency the President, members of Parliament, good afternoon. First of all, let me thank you, Chairperson, for giving direction to this debate. But, Honorable Premier, I say Eastern Cape, however, that causes a strain to the many government departments, especially the delivery departments like health, education, human settlement, police, and so, to name a few. However, this puts a heavy strains on the different departments. In our visit in Gauteng, our people complained of shortage of beds, long queues, clinics that don't work, and also lack of infrastructure. However, these shortages are not only immune to Gauteng. In the Eastern Cape, we've got the same problems. Free State has got the same problem. Gela and Arish, ubuyu uthwele imali ngomqolo, ubani olongxakileyo. Dithethe nge-migrants. Zikhona zabelungu. Diabulela ke gangster squad ikhupleyo. But those gangsters isebenzela abantu. They work for Europeans who own brothel shops, nightclubs. Yenzeka uyibonile kapha. So the same with the African immigrants. They are good ones. Zikhona ezingekho right. Abanye are yet to do criminal activities. And it is high time the European and the African ones babakhutshwa abantu abanjalo. Now, if you don't believe me about the European immigrants, nango omnye edela apha eNantsingeni, eGauteng. I-gangster lilapha. Utsotsi lo wangena ngendlela erong apha eMzantsi Afrika. So, le nto masekuyijonga African only, masiyijonge nalapha ebalungwini, ikhona le ngxaki leni. So, imacala onke le ngxaki leni. Our border fences, azikho. I can prove that to you. ndingawela ebhoda ngaphethanga nepassport iyenzeka loo nto leyo. It is high time bana the border fences zilungiswa kungangeni noba ngubani eMzantsi Afrika. Phinde sithethe ngezi refugees ne-immigrants. Ezi zithengise nepapa limele bithengiswa ngabantu bakuthi. Kudala abantu bakuthi bethengisa amagwinya, ebethengisa amarhewu bephila. But ngokunavenkile spaza shop yonke into aba-own nothing emhlabeni wabo. But ubani uye Africa soze umbone umuntu waseMzantsi Africa that is running a business. So this is something that we need to look at. This thing is destroying our people. This thing is putting a burden on the government. It is things that we need to look at. Yes, you are handling corruption, but corruption activities within Omaspala, yingxaki. Nango omnye owartam, i-report yawo, apho kukhutshwa ii-tenders zamanzi, kwatyiwa imali karhulumente prima yakuphika injalo kwiprovince yakho, kudliwe imali karhulumente. I-report is clear yakwa-finance ubana idliwe imali karhulumente. You need to take actions against those things. We cannot allow a situation where we as taxpayers, I'm a taxpayer in this country, taxpayers in this country, we need to see service fairly equally. It is very important. It is very important. Mama. Manbulela kakhulu nge debate.
Siyabulela. The Honorable, the MEC for Finance in Mpumalanga, Honorable Kolwani.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the NCOP and the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, the President of the Republic of South Africa, our Acting Premier of Gauteng, and all the other premiers who are present here, our honorable members, speakers, and fellow MECs who are also here, our executive mayor, mayors who are present here, and other councillors who are here, members of parliament and the provincial legislatures, our traditional leaders and also Salga leadership, and also our guests. Indeed, following your 2018 State of the Nation address, Honorable President, which lays the solid foundation and programs in terms of how we can sustain ourselves looking at the future as a country. Your address, Mr. President, galvanized the whole society around the common program of addressing our economic challenges and also improving the socio-economic situation of our people. As people of Mpumalanga, we also heeded your call of Tumamina to seize the moment to make our
Honorable
neighborhood.
MEC, please. Honorable Bagaitsu Bobasbami, ke kopa gore le ha le bua le ko tlase. Hobane re khone go utlwa dibui mo podiumeng. Ke kopo ke a leboga. Ntate Kolwani, please adjust your mic also to your mouth. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was saying, as people of Mpumalanga, we have also heeded your call, Mr. President, to seize the moment to make our neighborhood more welcoming, our streets to be safe, and also to build the necessary facilities for our communities. For our part as a provincial government, we continue to invest in available resources to the pressing needs of our people, prioritizing the programs that will yield the necessary results and the actual improve educational outcomes, improve skills, and raise the health profile of our communities. Chairperson, creating sustainable jobs opportunities, especially for women and the youth, is one of our priorities as a provincial government as part of your initiative, Mr. President. We fully understand the urgency of the task at hand, hence the need to accelerate socio-economic transformation and take decisive steps to promote inclusive economic growth. In this regard, as a provincial government, we are implementing various interventions that will secure the place of young people in key industries of the provincial economy, such as agriculture, mining, tourism, manufacturing, to mention the few. There is a considerable progress in our provincial flagship program of Fortune 40, Mr. President. This is the program which is focusing to young people. We have already released 15 farms as a provincial government and give to young people so that they can produce. We have not stopped there, Mr. President. What we have further did, we have also declared ourselves as a provincial government as a potential market for our people. All the food which we're eating in our hospitals for school feeding scheme and also the food parcel we are buying from our own small-scale farmers which are run by our young people. The second progress which we have made as a province, Mr. President, is that we continue to enhance our forestry sector. As you know that majority of the forests in the country are in Mpumalanga. We are saying we are going to stimulate the production of furniture in the province. But we are not going to stop there, Mr. President. We want all the furniture in government offices and also in school to be bought from our young people who are going to produce this furniture as we are moving forward. The last part where we want to intervene decisively as a province, we are saying, yes, in Mpumalanga we are booming in terms of mining. The only worrisome factor is that only big companies are occupying the space. We want, as a provincial government, to come into the space and help our young people so that they become young miners, so that they can be able also to benefit on our mineral resources as a province. We are hopeful that as we are taking this step, Mr. President, the national government will be supportive so that we ensure that we move forward and improve the lives of our people. The last part, Honorable President, which we are doing following your call, is that we have been building a lot of infrastructure and houses as a province. What we have done, we have come up with a social enterprise program. This program, we are saying when we are building any infrastructure in a particular village, all the materials must be bought in that village. We are tired to see materials like bricks and so on coming from outside of the township. We want our own people to make their own bricks so that we buy those bricks and everything so that when we talk about this economic empowerment, it becomes meaningful to our people, in particular in our township. We are saying, Honorable President, as we are continuing with this government nutrition program, we want to ensure that we are going to revitalize agriculture and agro-processing value chain, support the development of emerging farmers, increase local farmer production. As you know, Mr. President, that as a province, we are building a world-class international fresh produce market, which we want in the main to be supplied by our small-scale farmers, not the current commercial farmers, which are currently occupying the space. Mr. President, I've been listening everyone here debating. For a moment, I thought that probably it's a day of making requests. I know that in the next cabinet sitting, Honorable President, the issue of Nkomazi Special Economic Zone will be presented. I'm here on behalf of the province to request you, Honorable President, to make sure that the next cabinet meeting does approve the Nkomazi Special Economic Zone so that we can maximize the whole issue of the Maputo corridor and create the necessary jobs for the people of Mpumalanga. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. The Honorable, the Premier of the Northwest, Remo Khoro.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, President President Ramaphosa,
Please continue, Honorable Premier.
Honorable President of the Republic, Deputy Chairperson, all protocol observed. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be part of this participatory democracy session meant to take Parliament to the people. Participatory democracy on its own is a lasting legacy that our forebears fought for during all those years of struggle for freedom and democracy. And Honorable President, you continue to champion and lead this struggle as you have ably demonstrated and as you continue to do so on a daily basis. We have recently in the Northwest followed in your footsteps, where we embarked on a major attack on huge corruption in the Northwest. And we are pleased to announce that not only did we remove senior public servants who were caught with their fingers in the cookie jar, but we terminated a major ICT project. We might be approaching Acting Premier Lee Sufi to advise us moving forward on ICT matters. Every 5 years, millions of our people take to the polls to renew our mandate as their representatives to the National Assembly, as well as non-provincial legislatures, to put in place legislation and systems meant to make sure that their lives do improve for better and to build a better, prosperous South Africa for all who live in it. The centrality of our work as elected public representatives is to be willing to regularly account to those that have entrusted us with the responsibility to jealously guard over this democracy over every 5 years. Honorable President, it is my honest assessment, and we have already started to do so in the Northwest, that there are often some challenges in our capacity, both elected and appointed representatives, to engage with communities. And I think it is part and explanation of why communities tend to
The speaker on the podium is protected against you, honorable members.
Embark on all kinds of protests. In this regard, we would like to emphasize the importance on the part of our elected as well as appointed representatives to sharpen their listening skills as they engage with our communities. In the same vein, public servants have an ability to put together good plans in the form of annual performance plans. However, most of them do that without even consulting those plans with the people they are meant to serve. These annual performance plans should be able to give you, as an elected public representative, qualitative and qualitative indicators on how we are tackling the challenges facing our people in their daily lives, and official tasks with implementing them should be armed with the necessary skills to engage on a regular basis with communities to improve on the feedback they should be getting regularly. Our plans to improve the lives of our people do not sometimes adequately resonate with the hopes of the masses of our people. It is for this reason that we witness that such violent responses in all corners of our country, and quite shocking, and we surprisingly get horrified at times why people behave this way, and we are arguing that we need to sharpen our ability and our willingness to engage with our communities. The poverty levels that we witness on a daily basis are as a result, oftentimes, of our actions as elected public representatives, most of whom are unable to adequately respond to poverty challenges faced by millions of our people. We cannot, as a government of people, be distant from the electorate, because at all times it is important that in this engagement we recall the electoral mandate that we have committed ourselves to. Participatory democracy has the potential of giving back to our people their integrity, their dignity, no matter the challenges that we confront. The people of South Africa have a right to dignity as well as other rights and liberties as enshrined in the Bill of Rights, and their rights should not only be a matter of election time, but should be a matter of all times. Chairperson, we have realized, and I'm sure we all agree, that crime is one inhibitor to our democracy. People are unable to adequately enjoy the benefits of democracy. Oftentimes, we are also hindered in our engagement with communities because of crime. This is particularly the case during this time as we move towards the festive season. This is going to be particularly a challenge that we have to be very vigilant against. In the Northwest, as a result of giving prominence and importance to collaboration between communities and state structures, we have been able, through effective policing and community policy forums, we've been able to crack 3 cash-in-transit heists before they were actually able to set off. And we believe that these achievements underscore the value of collaborative governance, where government and communities work together in partnership in the course of service delivery. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. We welcome Councillor Modisakeng, representing Salga.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. To the Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, the Acting Premier of Gauteng, Ntate Panyaza Lesufi, Honorable Premiers and MECs, Honorable Speakers of the Provincial Legislatures, Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Deputy Speakers, Honorable Members of the NCOP, Honorable Members of the Provincial Legislatures, Honorable Executive Mayor of Eguruleni Metro, Babu Masina, my fellow councillors. There are very few issues facing our country, if any, that have more dire consequences for our collective future than the increasing rate of poverty, the persistent and rising level of inequality and unemployment. The impact on our youth is particularly concerning. The majority of people living in this region we now call South Africa, for the last half millennium have been living in some or other form of poverty or have lived lives of inequality. All this deliberately through social, economic, and other forms of exclusion. These were enacted through slavery, through colonialism, and through apartheid. Our story is also a story of underdevelopment and unequal development, while at the same time, it is a story of gold, diamonds, wildlife, and wealth for some. We need to drive a process where the wealth of this region can be shared equally by all who live in it. Honorable Chairperson, we appreciate the input of the President. SALGA believes that the President is dealing with some of the issues that are holding growth and development back, such as calling for accountability and administering consequences where there is malpractice. We have called for this sincere in our National Members' Assembly in 2013 when we initiated our anti-corruption campaign, which was followed by a call for consequences where there is poor accountability. This, we believe, is one of the cornerstones for turning our fortunes around. We welcome the outcomes of recent investment summit, the economic stimulus package, as well as the job summit, all of which have yielded significant commitments from the private sector and global investors. This sets up the apparatus inside and outside government to respond to these initiatives. The SALGA National Members' Assembly, scheduled for the 11th to the 12th of December, shall certainly reflect on how municipalities are capitalizing on the momentum of a new dawn to turn their respective local and regional economies around. While we celebrate the new dawn, we need to raise one or two issues that face local government. Honorable Chairperson, our metros and cities need to be the focus of investment. The urbanization of poverty has grown at an unprecedented pace as people migrate from the rural hinterland of our country as well as beyond our borders to the Gauteng metropolis. Inequality is more pronounced both in terms of scale and degree. Unemployment statistics also have an urban bias because those who are actively seeking jobs move to the urban areas, which are unfortunately unable to absorb the large number of people seeking opportunities every day. Honorable Chairperson, in order to drive investment, cities and particularly metros need to have the control of, or at least some significant influence over domestic investment decisions, such as the location of special economic zones and industrial parks. The investment into ports of entry, their operational efficiency, decisions regarding their downgrade, closure, or opening times, etc. We accept that municipalities need to and will improve certain aspects of governance, management, and processes in order to benefit from the opportunities being provided. However, we need to acknowledge that we as a country need cities to punch above everyone's weight in order to reach their maximum potential. That means that the whole of government needs to be directed in a way that is favorable to the growth and development of cities on the international scale. Honorable Chairperson, many of our towns and rural areas are in a dire need of investment. Our argument here is simple. We need regional level consideration and planning to facilitate investment at the level of town and rural areas. No one municipality is able to manage large-scale investment, especially where it crosses more than one municipality or where the impact is greater than one municipality. A good example of such is the prospect of shale gas. We need to set up a regional level fund from the fiscus to incentivize and facilitate regional planning by municipalities as a collective for a regional investment planning. This will assist in the long-term well-being of our rural and town inhabitants in this country. Honorable Chairperson, let me round up by saying we all collectively, but I speak to local government first. We need to do the following to reduce poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We need to root out corruption, improve administration, and reduce maladministration and malfeasance. Make sure that procurement systems are geared to creating local jobs. Ensure real participation with communities to ensure we all respond to their needs. Fellow councillors, please bring our communities on board as partners. You will understand their needs much better. Work together as the different spheres of government and sectors of society. We need the private sector and the civil society to work with us as partners to respond to poverty and unemployment. With regards to inequality, there are haves and have-nots in our country. Where are the social platforms for greater cohesion in our communities? What is the single most important sector to influence inequality? It is education in this society. Education is associated with upward mobility in South Africa. Everyone, whether you employ a domestic worker, you are a small business owner, or you are at the Department of Basic Education, you can contribute to reducing inequality strategically and in our individual capacity. Honorable Chairperson, let me appreciate once more the plans put forward by our President of the Republic. We welcome them and look forward to working with the impetus he has put in motion to chart a new path towards reducing poverty, unemployment, inequality, and the overall status of development of this country of ours. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. The Honorable Julius.
Honorable Chairperson, Mr. President, honorable members and fellow South Africans at large. You know, certainly the most pertinent issue that came out from the people of Gauteng this week is corruption. Corruption in housing, economic development, education, security services, contracts, projects. You know, Honorable Yusufi, you can announce billions, but the hyenas are lurking. They are listening to you. We are bringing billions, and then they want to steal half of that. That is why projects cannot be completed in the whole of the country where the ANC is in charge, because their first name and their last name is corruption, corruption. Honorable Masule, you know, I need to give you a message. Dogs don't only bark at moving cars, they also bark at the corrupt and thieves that are entering our fiscus. Chairperson, we must deal with corruption decisively, because that is what the people of Gauteng wanted this week from us to do. But before we do that, Mr. President, let's start from the top, because I believe a fish rots from its head. President Ramaphosa, you publicly committed yourself to fighting corruption, and indeed you try. But if this
it is thus appropriate for us to start with you and the allegations of corruption against yourself and the lies. Now, in response to a question in the National Assembly by the leader of the opposition and future president of this country, Mmusi Maimane, on the 500 rand from Bosasa, your response was that your son received it through a legitimate contract that you have seen.
Honorable Julius,
you told
Honorable Julius, just hold. Kia kopa. Allow the speaker on the podium to finish.
Mr.
No,
President,
no, Honorable Koni, what is the point of order?
Honorable Julius is misleading. He can't call a racist to be the incoming president of this country. So he must withdraw.
Honorable Koni, that is not a point of order. Please proceed, Honorable Julius.
We won't need your support for that. So
please proceed with your debate,
thank you, Chairperson. But Mr. President, you said that you saw it. You saw the contract of 500,000 rand for your son. And later on, you said it in Parliament, it's on record. Later on, you said, no, 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 no. No, no, that was for the contract in your campaign, your ANC campaign. Now, I want to know, Mr. President, did you lie to Parliament and the people of South Africa when you said that you saw the contract? Are there more contracts that your son received? How many contracts did your son receive? It is now the same case of former President Zuma and his son's businesses in government. I can only think what President Zuma's reaction was, Mr. President, when he heard this news, laughing and say, hey, 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 hey. He blamed me, but now he's in the same boat. Honorable Lusufi, if I were you, I would be very worried, because next year in 2019, you will be relegated to the back benches of the Gauteng legislature, just like your team Morocco Swallows. Now,
order! Order!
Mr. President,
order!
We heard you saying that people are selling houses to foreigners and we have a problem with illegal people in the country. Now, let me tell you, Mr. President, and we also heard from the Premier of Gauteng that 30% of people visiting health services in Gauteng are foreigners. He didn't specify whether they are legal or illegal. Now, we shouldn't discriminate without having proper facts in front of us. Now, I visited, Mr. President, I visited the borders. And I saw for myself that the fences have holes in it. The borders are porous. People are coming in and out as they please. There's a free for all at our borders. I saw it for myself. You might as well say there are no borders in South Africa because it's a free for all. If you go to gate 6 in one of our border gates, people are just coming in and out there. When people come into our country, Mr. President, they must be documented. We must actually invite immigrants, to our country, but they must be documented. How else will you plan? Especially our African brothers and sisters. We have an asylum seeker process, but these people are being neglected. If you go to these centers, they are being neglected, sent from pillar to post, and yet these are the African brothers and sisters of us that need water, they need food, they need to be taken care of, and we are not doing that. I'm not saying that we should chase foreign nationals away because we have to. I'm saying let them come through the right channels and have them documented so that we can plan as a nation. Chairperson, the ANC in Gauteng actually march against themselves now with the e-toll. What a joke, Honorable Lusufi. You march against your own president. Who is fooling who? I have a message for you today. The people of Gauteng will never pay e-tolls. We will not pay it. The DA fought for it, and we will remain fighting for it. We will not pay e-tolls. Chairperson, the Premier also acknowledged earlier this year that the ANC neglected colored voters. Now, what a shame. What a shame of the ANC to neglect a certain part of South Africa. You know, all people in South Africa need to be taken care of. We need to be worried about coloreds, Indians, black and Africans, because we are one nation. We must all get services from government and not a certain few. Why did the ANC in Gauteng, upon their own acknowledgement, neglect colored voters for all these years? Mr. President, you are announcing a cabinet reshuffle today.
Thank you, sir. Your
I
time
hope
has
Honorable
expired.
Batabile Dlamini will be part of that.
Honorable
Get
Julius.
rid of Batabile.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Mohai. Order! Order! Honorable Mohai.
Thank you, Chairperson, and the President of the Republic of South Africa, fellow honorable members, comrades, and friends. Honorable Julius and Isaac did not disappoint as trusted cheerleaders of the DA representing an anti-transformation agenda. Instead of them giving an account on issues that affect the people, they screamed at
Honorable
the ANC
Mohai,
asking for
please
help.
take your seat. Honorable Smith, you are on your feet.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. My apology to the speaker on the podium. Honorable Chairperson, my apology. The members in the gallery are really, we can't even hear properly. They're insulting us here at the back, and it's out of control. We can't go on like this. Please, Chairperson.
Thank you, sir. Your point of order is sustained. Members in the gallery, please do not insult the members of Parliament.
Instead of
But
engaging-
also, please lower your voices if you have to converse. Please continue, sir.
Thanks, Chairperson. Instead of engaging with the burning issues that affect the people, they choose to scream at the ANC and thus expose their ignorance. Honorable members, Honorable Julius takes a platform here, thinks by continuously falsifying information, the DA will be believed by the people of South Africa. The President of the Republic of South Africa stands tall, out of no provocation, by writing to the Speaker of the National Assembly and put a record straight about matters that Honorable Julius referred to here. Only an organization of the people that has the courage for self-correction will always present and resolve matters in the interest of the people. We are here, firstly, to reassure the people of South Africa by reaffirming that ours is not cheap grandstanding, motivated by the desire to be popular, but to reconnect with them for building the national democratic society envisaged in the Freedom Charter. We do not have crisis. We do have clarity and vision. Comrade President, the testimonies of the last 3 days can attest that ours is a fitting tribute to the legacy of two giants of our struggle, Comrade Nelson Mandela and Albertina Sisulu. The legacy of Comrade Madiba and Albertina Sisulu, about whose century coincides with this event. Amongst the abiding legacy of Madiba and Sisulu is the courage of conviction, to listen to our people even if we do not derive joy from what they tell us about the performance of government. The people of Gauteng, the past 3 days, in a disciplined manner, raised issues that affect them and vigorously demanded that the government should resolve them. One comrade standing here, the Premier of Limpopo, borrowed from Amika Cabral, and I want to say that we're here to tell no lies and claim no easy victories as the African National Congress, but to listen to
and tell the truth as is, even if it coincides with our detractors. We are humbled that despite many challenges, Gauteng province is a collective pride of South Africa and its people in terms of good governance and accountability and responsiveness to the needs of the people. The 100% clean audit of Gauteng is a living testimony to this. Why can't you raise these matters, Honorable Julius and Honorable Isaac? Contemporary history teaches that whenever there's paralysis of thought and action by those who are entrusted with the task of leadership to respond to the needs and concerns and fears of the people, anarchy and decay are bound to predominate. Honorable members, we will all concede that the era of globalization has precipitated a migration to be at the center of global development and governance policy discourse. We don't need a rocket science to understand that the relative political stability and economic development of South Africa is bound to attract international migrants, especially from poor African countries, in search of better economic opportunities and lived opportunities. As the economic hub of the continent, Gauteng province is equally bound to have heightened concentration of foreign nationals. Whilst we should concede at the concentration or over-concentration of these foreign nationals put strain on our already limited resources, we understand that the Department of Economic Development says, and I quote, export of manufactured goods to the rest of the African continent has grown at a faster rate than to any other part of the world, which sustains over 250,000 jobs in South Africa. So this represents challenge and progress. Honorable President, as this is your first annual address to the NCOP as the President of the Republic, the eyes of the people of South Africa are firmly cast on this event with great sense of hope. Our people are keen to know how far you have gone since the State of the Nation address. And implementing these priorities, you have outlined in the inaugural State of the Nation address, and I will do so in blow-by-blow account. We raise the question cognizant of the global context of economic decline, which is also affecting South Africa, and thus limiting its choices for sustained inclusive development. Comrade President, following the resolutions of the 54th National Conference of the ANC, you have outlined, among others, the following as strategic priorities: isolating and rooting out corrupt elements in public and private sector, uniting government, labor, business, and communities in common partnership to mobilize international investment, fighting poverty and unemployment. Comrade President, we are proud that in less than a year of your tenure, South Africa and the international community count on the successes you have made in turning around the economy for inclusive growth. Amongst critical milestones you have made, placing South Africa at the center of key global institutions to boost jobs and growth, thus focusing on the BRICS countries, convening investment conference as it's been mentioned, and the resulted benefit of 294 billion. Unbundling the economic concentration in the hands of monopolies, thus opening opportunities for mass economic participation as outlined in the Freedom Charter. Many monopolies, we must say, are foreign-owned. Many within the opposition benches in the DA are opposed to this legislation of competition amendment bill because it will do away with the predatory pricing by large players, thus reduce prices and knock small participants in the economy and thereafter raise the prices. But the DA is opposed to this legislation. So you are smart in representing anti-transformation. So the people of South Africa must see you for who you represent. You represent the interests of the minority, rich, and even outside the borders of the Republic of South Africa. Comrade President, we are proud that manufacturing that builds finished product that are competitive in the market, thus reindustrializing the economy of South Africa, will in a massive way contribute to job creation and address unemployment. The scourge of crime and corruption should be defeated. And we said, in the bold steps that we have taken, which include, among others, President, re-engineered and overhauled the organizational and management architecture of state-owned companies, which has been generally conceived as heaven of corruption. It is the ANC that is doing that. We claim no easy victories, we tell no lies. The Commission of Inquiry in the maladministration in South African revenue, the speedy appointment of the leadership of Hawks and NPA, addressing the Public Audit Amendment Act, ACCENTI, which gives powers to the Auditor General to recommend punitive measures against wronged accounting officers, the renewed confidence of the police to handle criminals without fear or favor. It is at this point I want to say, the DA demonstrates lack of governance. In its narrow conception, it thinks that governance is like driving on a highway, counting how many poles you pass. The ANC understand the complexities of governance. The DA is the last party to lecture us on justice and human rights. Your new mayor in Cape Town have been publicly accused of having dealings with the gangsters in Cape Flats.
On a point of order, Chair.
When we...
Honorable Mohai, please take your seat. Honorable Labaskachny, you're on your feet.
Chairperson, I want to know if the Honorable Mohai would take a question on the performance of the DA.
Honorable Mohai, will you take a question?
As I finish, Chair, yes, I'm glad to take a question.
As you finish.
Yes.
Honorable Labaskachny, he's not taking a question. Please proceed.
On that note, Honorable Labuskaghen, when the mayor was an MEC, he cut funding for community organizations, those who were involved in preventing crime. It is during Dan Plato's first stint as mayor that the Metropolis budget had received the biggest cut. The budget received the biggest cut and reduced employment and deployment of Metropolis officers. But then what was the response of the DA? They called South African government to deploy the army for failing to deploy its resources to attend to issues of crime and drugs in the city. With the mess that you created, your last result was to tell the people of South Africa that there is no cooperative governance in South Africa. The DA tell us that they uphold the rule of law, yet suffered successive court rulings in Patricia de Lille's case, precisely because you hated her. You hated, just simply that you hated her. Why do you not raise these matters? That now, in this week at Terfontein, one of the mayors here in Johannesburg raised comments. If this is not xenophobia, so what is it? And why the apology? Why are you not coming here to put your policy position straight? Because you are embarrassed, you see the people here, you see them as voting for us. Whereas this DA pronounced on a number of things. But there's crisis in all councils that are presided to by the DA. There is crisis in South Africa. And let me say here, Honorable Mkashel, the first quarter labor survey and the second quarter labor survey says 3 provinces stands out in terms of job creation. And it is Limpopo, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. Western Cape is number 5. Western Cape is number 5 among the provinces that are creating jobs. Chairperson, as we conclude this debate today, we must humble ourselves as selfless servants of our people to renew our efforts to serve South Africa, both in deeds and ways. And in the true spirit of Comrade Nelson Mandela, Chris Hani, Winnie Mandela Walter Sisulu, Lawrence Pukanog, Ahmed Timol, Bani Molokwani, and many more heroes and heroines that we say who left nothing for us. They passed on, but they left nothing for us. But they urged to keep the fires of revolution burning. Chairperson, allow me to conclude by saying the following. Comrade President, the ANC that you lead will never succumb to any form of bullying from whatever quarters. They be left or right. South Africa is looking upon you to break new grounds in defense of the legacy of our forebears. The people of South Africa have confidence in you and are prepared to defend you. When you rise, we'll rise as one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The Honorable, the President of the Republic of South Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, honorable premiers, honorable MECs and councillors, and all other invited guests. It is indeed a real honor for me to participate in this debate. Throughout the rich and vibrant inputs that have been made here this morning, the needs and the concerns of our people have been central to the inputs that many of the speakers made here. This debate has really been about the work that we need to do to ensure that all our people are able to fully enjoy the social and economic rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. As government, we have an obligation and indeed a duty to take appropriate measures towards the progressive realization of our people's rights on many fronts, be it education, healthcare, sufficient food and nutrition, land, water, a clean and healthy environment, and just basic services as well. As we have been reminded in this debate, we seek to do so and to proceed in a rapid manner, but also to respond to the challenges that urbanization, which is taking place in our country in an unprecedented manner, puts before us. 65% of our country's population now resides in urban areas and in cities, a number that has swelled in the past decade and is expected to increase even further. As we have heard the inputs from Gauteng and the Western Cape, that people are flocking, particularly to these two provinces. Migration from rural areas into urban centers, coupled with a natural population increase, has exacerbated the challenges we face in providing adequate infrastructure and services. The proliferation of informal settlement, increasing urban poverty, lack of suitable land for urban housing, and the burden placed on services such as healthcare and education are but some of the challenges that we have heard about today. These are serious challenges. These are new and serious challenges that we've got to address. During the course of this debate, we've also gained valuable insight into what is currently being done in all the provinces of our country to address poverty, unemployment, inequality, and underdevelopment. And I will want to come to some of the wonderful initiatives that are being taken in a variety of most of our provinces. The Honorable Isaac posed an important question. He asked, what progress have we honestly made in the past few years to end poverty? Despite the challenges that we continue to face as a nation, we can declare with confidence that we have made remarkable progress towards the achievement of a better society. That we have done. The South Africa that we live in today is markedly different from the South Africa that we lived in under apartheid. It's a vast difference. In 1994, just 50% of South African households had access to electricity. Today, that figure stands at 85%. Access to piped water has more than doubled since 1994 and is now at 87% of all households. Over 4/5 of people in our country now live in formal dwellings. We have achieved nearly universal primary school attendance and have almost 1 million students in institutions of higher learning. That is just some of the progress that we have honestly made to end poverty and to address some of the needs of our people. We know, however, that when it comes to the delivery of services and the creation of jobs, we could do better, and in fact, we must do better, and we are going to do better. That is definitely going to happen. Based on the initiatives that we are embarking upon, we will do better and jobs will be created. We are fully aware that in several areas of governance, we are still falling short of what our people expect of us. And this we must be honest about as a nation. As the Auditor General reminded us this week, we have severe deficiencies in the financial management of public funds. The consolidated report on the 2017-2018 financial year shows that unauthorized expenditure increased by 38% from the previous year to reach 2.1 billion. We cannot be proud about this. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure increased by over 200% to 2.5 billion. The report also noted that departments of health and education need urgent intervention. Now, these are matters that we've got to address. But the good thing is that the Auditor General is raising it as a burning issue which we at all levels of government now need to take up and make sure we address. We are determined to give the Auditor General the power and the capacity to take action against those who are responsible for wasting and losing and stealing public money. The money that Honorable Gaylor spoke about here, when he put it so succinctly that this is the money that he is contributing as a taxpayer, and that money that is being paid by taxpayers must not, one, be stolen and must not be wasted. And there should be no fruitless expenditure on the money that we are all paying. As this debate has made clear, our economic recovery needs to address infrastructure backlogs, put measures in place to create new jobs, and prevent job losses, but also to direct government spending to where it needs to go. As we work hard to meet the needs of our growing and increasing urbanized population, we need to take extraordinary measures. Now more than ever, we have to harness the principle of cooperative governance to ensure that all spheres of government, national, provincial, local, do indeed join hands to have effective coordination. We remain mindful of the need to deepen democracy, involving our people in decisions that are taken to make sure that the programs that we put in place indeed do get implemented. Now, we have heard through this year's Taking Parliament to the People that laudable initiatives are in place to give our citizens a greater say in the matters of governance. Today, as this session of the National Council of Provinces draws to a close, we can say with confidence and conviction that we have heard the cries of our people, but also particularly here in Gauteng. We've heard the cries of our people from across the country, from the representatives of our people. But we have also heard the progress that is being made in our provinces. And this, for me, is what makes the National Council of Provinces be a structure of our government or our state to really come alive, because it demonstrates that as a whole, our country is moving forward. The NCOP chairperson raised, yes, indeed, very sharply, the concerns and the issues that are facing our people here in Gauteng. And yes, particularly here in Ekurhuleni, those issues will be addressed, including the issue of the equitable share that needs to be looked at, particularly in view of the movement of people who have come to Gauteng here. But at the same time, the provinces from where they have come from also need an equitable share that is going to be able to sustain their own development. So we do need to have a very good balance, particularly having heard from the chair of the Council of Provinces. Our Premier of the Eastern Cape, Premier Masualle, spoke very positively about the work that we are doing in the industrial parks, revamping our industrial parks in the Eastern Cape, in Dimbaza, and also going to Vulindlela. We are particularly pleased that that work is beginning to have an impact. It is part of the stimulus package through which we are now going to focus more on revamping the industrial parks that we've got in a number of areas in our country, in a number of provinces, to make sure that those industrial parks come back to life and they are able to be the venues where factories can be established and where employment can take place. So I'm particularly pleased to hear that in the Eastern Cape, it is a matter that is being looked at as an activity that can generate economic activity and create jobs. The Eastern Cape remains what I would call the epicenter of agriculture in our country. It has fertile land, and the Eastern Cape can indeed become the food basket of our country. And we want the Eastern Cape to rise to that occasion. And we are particularly pleased that the stimulus package is also going to address issues of agriculture in the Eastern Cape. MEC Kompela, he says that he has having longed for the road to freedom, he referred to that. There are still more hills that we need to climb. Yes, in the Free State, there are many hills that we've still got to climb, but I was particularly pleased to hear that following the holding of the NCOP, taking Parliament to the people in the Free State, we were able to record some progress, particularly in responding to the needs of our people, both at a globular level as well as at an individual level of those people who needed to be given a measure of compassion by government. Acting Premier Lesufi, talking about Gauteng and the various initiatives that are being embarked upon in Gauteng. And I particularly was impressed by Gauteng's response to the challenge of migration, because Gauteng's response to migration is underpinned by solidarity, having a good understanding of why people would flock to Gauteng, not only from other countries, but from inside our own country as well. It is underpinned by understanding, but at the same time, they need the support that they can have so that their schools and their hospitals can be able to support the great influx of people who keep coming to Gauteng. And the mega housing projects that they are embarking upon is something that we support greatly. And their rapid land release projects is something that we believe needs to be looked at by a number of other provinces, because it is going to lead to the increase of accommodating our people properly. On the issue of e-tolls, Acting Premier, and yes, my Honorable Mutara, we can hear the cries of the people here in Gauteng about e-tolls. But at the same time, I welcome your statement in saying it does not mean that the people of Gauteng are saying they do not want to pay for the infrastructure. We welcome that, because when we build infrastructure, we all need to know we have a responsibility on a user pay principle, that we should, as we use infrastructure, be able to contribute for the build-up of that infrastructure. So on the issue of e-tolls, we are having a conversation with the provincial government, and I'm sure that we are going to find solutions that will make sure that we do finance the construction of the roads that we've got here, and the participation of our people, and indeed the provincial government, is something that we need to look at. So I am positive, I'm pleased as well, that we are not saying we are not going to pay for e-tolls or for the roads. We will pay for infrastructure. We need to find mechanisms that will enable us to ensure that this infrastructure is paid for. So I welcome that, and thank you very much for that. Honorable Kaula says that it is important for us to understand how we got where we are. But he is pleased as well to acknowledge that the situation is turning around, that there is policy uncertainty that is being instilled, and he also welcomes the fact that we are attracting investments of up to 290 billion rand, and we are focusing on crime. These are the developments which we are engendering. We are focusing on all the things that need to be done to make our country more attractive. And Honorable Kaula, you are right. We are turning things around. Ziyajiga izinto ngempela. Honorable and MEC Tusi, I was particularly pleased to hear her reminding us of the National Development Plan. And this is particularly important because KwaZulu-Natal, soon after the National Development Plan was drafted, they immediately rushed to draft their own provincial development plan. And it is this provincial development plan that they have pivoted the progress that they are making in KZN. And we are grateful that KZN, in focusing on the economic development that they need to focus on, are using the National Development Plan as a template as they craft their own provincial development plan and implement it. And we therefore are particularly pleased with that, but we are also pleased that KwaZulu-Natal, having implemented the Sukuma Sake way of doing things, their war room, have been able to get communities in KZN to cooperate, to work together on some of the most challenging issues, including HIV/AIDS. The HIV/AIDS program is being managed and being implemented through this wonderful Sukuma Sake program that they have implemented. And we are particularly happy as well that the special economic zones that have been that we are setting up in KwaZulu-Natal are generating economic growth, and that is focusing attention on the broader economic growth that we need to see. My comrade MEC Mkasela from Western Cape spoke glowingly about Operation Phakisa. It was particularly pleasing to hear someone from the Western Cape talking about Operation Phakisa and saying Operation Phakisa is their hope. We are particularly pleased about that, particularly when it comes to the ocean economy. We are very supportive of the initiatives that you want to take as well in the oceans economy, and will stand by you and support you. The anti-gang unit that has been launched is something that we are going to spread throughout the country. We launched it in the Western Cape, and we are now going to be spreading it throughout the country, because we've got to get to grips with the crime activities of these gangs, and we've got to make sure that we end criminality in various parts of our country. And this anti-gang unit is going to be more focused on ensuring that gangs have no room to play amongst our communities, and we bring crime to an end as soon as we can. We must applaud the Western Cape for having up to 83% clean audit. And this is something that we should applaud and seek to emulate, because they have made progress year on year. And this is to be applauded, and all other provinces must seek to emulate that. Honorable Koni took us down memory lane and reminded us of how the colonialists carved out our continent. But she also sought to give us a little bit of mkhabulo. I will not get into that, because she mixes up concepts like nationalization and all that, which may not be particularly relevant in as far as generating economic growth in our economy. However, she also speaks about issues that we are working on. State-owned enterprises are being revamped. Honorable Koni, we are determined to root out corruption from our state-owned enterprises. And this is something that we are not going to turn back from. Those who are corrupt, those who get involved in malfeasance are going to be rooted out, and in fact, they will be charged with corruption, because we are a country that should never tolerate corruption in our state structures. Honorable Koni, that we are going to do. Honorable Mutara says that we should seize the day. Carpe diem. Now, Honorable Mutara, I want to add on to what you said by reading you a quotation from Shakespeare, where he says, "There is a tide in the affairs of men," we should say women as well, "which taken at the flood leads to fortune. Omitted all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat. And we must take the current when it serve or lose our ventures. This is our carpe diem." I am particularly pleased because you speak of us seizing the day. We must seize the day and make sure that we do what is right. We do what is right by grasping the opportunities that the fourth industrial revolution can yield for us. We must do what is right by creating jobs for young people. We must do what is right now by ensuring that our economy grows. And this is what we are afloat on. We must therefore seize that day and know that this is the moment that our country now has to move forward. We've been through storms, and we're now moving away from these storms and must now do a full carpe diem and seize this day and move forward without looking backwards too much. Premier Matabata speaks about us taking advantage of the new dawn. And indeed, we are now embarked on a new dawn. This is the moment that all of us should now seize and institutionalize good governance, as he was saying, and we must make sure that we improve investor confidence. Limpopo has seen how, when we increase investor confidence, we are able to attract investments. Limpopo is now attracting investments, is able to attract a number of investors from onshore and offshore that are going to lead to increased job creation. And this is happening because we are turning our governance around in Limpopo and we are doing the right things. And it is for this reason that we applaud what Premier Matabata was saying. Thank you very much, Premier Matabata. Honorable Gayla, poor service delivery indeed affects the poor more. The decay in our infrastructure is what we should deal with. We need to make sure that we take care of the tax monies that are paid by our people and root out corruption completely. And we support you completely in that. We are prepared to work with you to ensure that decaying infrastructure in all our provinces, not only in the Eastern Cape, is something that we should focus on. MEC Kolwane, creating jobs, he says, is a top priority, and focusing on entry for young people is what Mpumalanga is working on, and we applaud that. We applaud that approach because Mpumalanga is also seeking to show the whole country on how you can focus on opening pathways for young people. The Fortune 40, that initiative that they have embarked on, is going to bring a lot of young people into economic activity. The farms that they are opening up, and especially opening up for young people, is what we need to see more and more throughout the country. The forestry initiative to make furniture for the country is particularly what we want to see. Yes, we have heard you on the Nkomazi Special Economic Zone. We will talk about that. Premier Mokgoro reminded us of the importance of the role that we all have as elected officials. And he says that as elected officials, we must know and remember that we are elected to serve our people. We are elected to address the needs of our people and not our own needs. And that is particularly important. Councillor Modisa King stresses the issue of accountability and consequence management. This is particularly important coming from SALGA. Accountability and consequence management is something that we need to focus on as a nation. Because we often find that people do things, they do wrong things and get away with it. They steal and still walk around freely in the country. They defraud government, they still walk around freely. It is very good to hear SALGA saying there needs to be accountability and consequent management. What it means is that if you steal money, you must be accountable. There must be consequence management. If you steal and defraud our state, you should not just walk around freely. We must make sure that there is consequence management and people must be accountable. And I particularly liked her approach on saying that cities must be centers of investment. Our cities must be reservoirs of investment, and they should not be reservoirs of waste. And this I have found to be wonderful inputs that I believe have not been grandstanding. There have been inputs that live up to the principles of what the NCOP has been all about, or should be all about. Unifying our people, not being insulting, making sure that we build an effective cooperative governance as a nation. I am not going to waste my time to honor Honorable Julius with a reply on some of the things he said. I truly don't believe I should honor his input with any form of reply because he was just talking to the wind. In the end, having heard all the concerns of our people, but for me particularly having heard the work that is being done at the provincial level, where all provinces were able to outline the work that they are doing for our people, I was particularly heartened. And I wish to commend all our provinces that have participated here, and I wish to commend members of the NCOP for discussing these difficult issues. But more importantly, I want to commend our people who have, through the past few days, been putting their concerns, their aspirations, and their great difficulties to the members of the NCOP. The NCOP is truly coming into its own as being a structure of our state for being able to listen to our people. And I want to thank you for ensuring that when we say we are taking Parliament to the people, indeed we are taking Parliament to come and listen to our people. So it is incumbent on us as legislators and members of the NCOP and members of the executive to proceed with urgency to address the issues that have been raised by our people, to also strengthen some of the good things that we are doing in our provinces as outlined here. We must therefore harness all tools at our disposal to make for better and more integrated planning, budgeting, and regulation. We remain committed to good governance, to promoting accountability and transparency, but also to promoting clean administration and, above all, making the voices of our people heard. The NCOP, as a key instrument for deepening democracy, must be congratulated for its work. It must also be encouraged to continue in this manner as it goes from province to province year after year. We are encouraged at the high level of participation that it has enabled for our people to participate. As we work to decrease and ultimately eradicate poverty, we will continue to do so, working hand in hand with our people. We will work together to ensure that everyone in this country does indeed have a better future, with no one being left behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Order. That concludes the debate. And I would like to thank the President for availing himself to address this Council. Members, you are requested to remain standing while the procession leaves the House. This House is adjourned.